Next summer, Spider-Man Brand New Day finally swings into theaters, and I can't be more excited. After the end of No Way Home, we left Peter Parker completely alone in the world, with everyone forgetting who he is. That ending set the stage perfectly for Spidey's next adventure to be a grounded street-level story, and all signs point to that being exactly what we're going to get. In an era dominated by multiverses and sprawling cinematic universes, audiences are starving for a traditional Spider-Man story, and Brand New Day looks poised to deliver on that. Now, I'm not here to make wild predictions about this film's plot, but I do want to take what we already know and share my thoughts, my wish list, and my hopes for how these elements will be handled in this film. Spider-Man Brand New Day is set to be directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, and based on his work on Shang-Chi, we might finally get a Spider-Man film with real personality behind the camera. One of my main criticisms of the Home trilogy was how bland they felt stylistically. No disrespect towards John Watts. He delivered solid movies, but they carried that samey, directed by committee MCU feel, rather than having a strong directorial identity. Watts even explained that the web swinging in those films was done entirely with CGI, which perfectly explains why the swinging in those movies felt so lifeless. But according to set leaks, Brand New Day is set to bring back real practical swinging. This gives me so much hope that we are finally going to return to swinging that feels raw, tangible, and intimate, which, saying out loud, sounds like I'm describing a totally different type of movie, but you know what I mean. Joining Spider-Man in Brand New Day will be Jon Bernthal's Punisher. Now, part of me is concerned how they can tonally fit Holland's happy-go-lucky Spider-Man with Bernthal's R-rated ultra-violent take on the Punisher. Now, unfortunately, an R-rated Spider-Man flick is not in the cards, so they're likely to tone down Punisher so he can fit into Spidey's PG-13 world. Though hopefully with the inclusion of Punisher, this allows this film to dive into darker territory that the Home trilogy never dared to do. Also, the clash in philosophies between these two characters will be interesting to watch. They will likely be at odds at first, honestly likely enemies at first, though they will be forced to team up to take on a greater threat. Also, I would be so happy if they could recreate this iconic comic panel from Civil War. Michael Mando's Scorpion is confirmed to be a villain in this film, finally paying off the post-credit scene in Homecoming, though it is heavily rumored that Mr. Negative will be the main villain of this film, and I actually think that's a pretty solid choice. I imagine Peter will still do volunteer work at Feast in honor of Aunt May, and he'll probably know Martin Lee through there. Though the betrayal Peter will likely feel when finding out that the man carrying out Aunt May's legacy is secretly Mr. Negative, going around corrupting people and causing chaos, will affect him deeply. The end of No Way Home finally showed us Peter's dark side when he attempted to kill Green Goblin. Though here Frank can kind of play devil's advocate for Peter to dabble into that side of him, which would spark an interesting internal conflict for Peter, eventually leading him towards the symbiote arc. Though I think they should hold off on the symbiote here for either Secret Wars or Spider-Man 5, because this film is already pretty stuffed. Even though I would personally prefer for this film to not include multiple other MCU characters, but it's already practically confirmed that Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is set to appear in this film. And hopefully that finally means the return of Savage Hulk. I know I'm not in the minority in saying that. I'm getting pretty sick of Smart Hulk. So hopefully this film will bring the return of Savage Hulk through the work of Mr. Negative. I really hope that the fight between Spider-Man and Hulk will be similar to the classic comic Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut, where Peter is completely physically outmatched, which leads to him getting pummeled. But in true Spider-Man fashion, he finds that last bit of strength to outsmart his enemy. Also, I want to see Spider-Man get beat up in this film. Not since the Raimi films have we seen a truly battle-damaged Spider-Man costume. I mean, he would get roughed up in the MCU movies, but nothing to the length of the suit getting torn, the mask all ripped to shreds. I want to see that in Brand New Day. This is such an underrated aspect of the character that I feel the MCU kinda glossed over. Spider-Man isn't a billionaire flying around in a metal suit. He's a vulnerable kid with the weight of the world on his shoulders, and that's reflected when his suit gets torn to shreds. Everyone is buzzing about who they think Sadie Sink's character is going to be. There is speculation that she could be Jean Grey, Mayday Parker, or Gwen Stacy, especially because she was reportedly seen on set wearing a blonde wig. Personally, I really hope she turns out to be Gwen Stacy. More than anything, I really want to get a glimpse of Peter's college life in this film. And if we're lucky, we'll maybe even get to meet this universe's Harry Osborn. Bringing these people into Peter's life puts him in a very interesting position. He already knows their name. He has heard of them from his multiverse counterparts. Gwen Stacy, the girl Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man failed to save. Harry Osborn, just that last name Osborn, should send a chill down Peter's spine. Naturally, I think Peter would keep these people at arm's length, afraid of repeating the tragedies he has faced personally and has heard about. But over time, he would start building actual connections with these people, friendships, and maybe something even deeper, and that's what unsettles him the most. Deep down, Peter knows how these people's stories have ended for Tobey and Andrew's Spider-Man. That knowledge would hang over him every moment, adding a new layer of tension in his relationships in Brand New Day and hopefully through the rest of this new trilogy. Now, it's very likely that Spider-Man 5 and 6 will release after Secret Wars, and with a soft reboot of the MCU on the horizon, it's hard to predict exactly how these films will take shape. That said, I don't think Tom Holland's Spider-Man would be heavily affected by a soft reboot. He's easily the most popular character in the current MCU, and it would be foolish for Marvel and Sony to recast him now. If it were up to me, and again, these are just very, very rough ideas, Spider-Man 5 would be the symbiote story. This would be the Empire Strikes Back of the trilogy, leaving Peter at his absolute lowest. Then Spider-Man 6 would serve as Holland's swan song, where he finally faces either Venom or his universe's Green Goblin or Hobgoblin, a villain deeply tied to Spider-Man's legacy, or something they have been building up for this entire trilogy. And most importantly, this finale would open the door for Miles Morales to step in Peter's shoes, being the new MCU Spider-Man. Now, when should we introduce this universe's Miles Morales? Not during Brand New Day. As I said earlier, this movie is already pretty stuffed, and I also feel that we should introduce a live-action Miles Morales after Beyond the Spider-Verse drops. But overall, what I want most from Brand New Day is a true return to form for the character. I just want a Spider-Man story that's fun, heartfelt, earnest, and emotionally moving. Holland's Spider-Man has carried a lot of MCU baggage, and I really feel he deserves a film that finally allows him to stand on his own. Homecoming was probably the closest we've gotten to this, but even that, he was heavily tied to Iron Man and the larger MCU. Far From Home was easily the weakest of the Home trilogy. The humor was far too juvenile, the plot was flimsy, and the whole Edith Glass's storyline where Peter almost blows up his classmate is borderline unwatchable. And honestly, it just didn't really feel like Spider-Man. And while No Way Home was a love letter to the character, it leaned heavy on the Raimi and Mark Webb legacy characters. And it never really felt like a standalone Tom Holland story. Spider-Man Brand New Day is the chance to change that. It's the chance to give Tom Holland his own Spider-Man film that is fully centered on him and the mythos of Spider-Man himself, his villains, his allies, his struggles, and his ideals. If Destin Daniel Cretton and crew can pull this off, then this will not only be a great start to this new trilogy, but will finally give fans a pretty definitive solo Spider-Man story that we have been waiting for many years now. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this latest video, and if you did, make sure to give this video a like. And if you want more content like this, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell notification so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. And shout out to Club Penguin and Robbie the Robot. Thanks for watching.